I am charged up, powered up. Watch me level up. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee made it official on Sunday afternoon. The Final Four are number 1 LSU, number 2 Ohio State, number 3 Clemson, and number 4 Oklahoma. The Buckeyes and the original Death Valley Tigers will play on December 28th at 7 p.m. They'll play at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. The Bayou Bengals will play the Sooners at 3 p.m. on the same day. They'll play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta in the Chick-Fil-A Peach Bowl. Now, do you think Oklahoma can make a run at the national title? If you do, nobody else does, but we're going to find out for sure. And here are the fast facts about the matchup before we get into the playoff details. Oklahoma has never played in the Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A or otherwise. This will be the first time it has, and the third time it's played LSU. The last time OU played LSU, the Sooners lost the BCS title game 21-14 in 2003. LSU opened as an 11.5-point favorite over OU. LSU boasts the number 1 offense in the country, while OU ranks number 2. But there's just a hair's difference between the two. LSU averages 554.4 yards per game, and the Sooners average 554.2. OU has scored on 63 of 69 red zone opportunities, while LSU has scored on 63 of 65. Oklahoma averages 8.2 yards per play. LSU averages 7.8. LSU has scored an average of 47.7 points per game, and Oklahoma has scored an average of 42.3. Oklahoma ranks 24th in total defense, while LSU ranks 32nd. Each team has a Heisman candidate as their respective triggerman. Joe Burrow leads the nation in passer efficiency rating with 201.5. Jalen Hurts is second in that statistic at 200.3. Not counting Tua Tagovailoa there because he ain't played enough games. Oklahoma's 4 showings in the semifinal are the third most in the 6-year history of the college football playoff. Only Alabama, who ain't in it, and Clemson have more appearances with 5. Ohio State is making its 3rd playoff appearance, and LSU is making its 1st. The take: LSU ain't been here before. Let's find out if the Tigers know how to act. Again, because it bears repeating, Oklahoma boasts a top 25 defense. OU ranked 114th in that stat last year, which is a glaring indictment of the last defensive regime, as Alex Grinch has produced an elite defense with the same cats. Grinch took the laughingstock of Power 5 football in the 2018 OU defense and turned it into a top 50 scoring defense. LSU ranks 27th in scoring defense. 2019 LSU is what Oklahoma should have been in 2017 and 2018. Fight me. Mike Stoops, buddy, what the hell were you doing? What I'm saying is Kenneth Murray Jr. might show up to Atlanta and pull a Torrance Marshall talking about, I came to get my coach's Broyles Award back. And perhaps his Buckeyes Award trophy. He's accounted for 95 tackles and 4 sacks this season from the middle linebacker position. LSU, though, ranks 32nd in total defense and is led by linebacker Jacob Phillips. All the feelings there. He leads them in tackles with 97. Oklahoma ranks 2nd in total defense with, in total offense, at 554.2, as I mentioned, and LSU ranks 1st. If you take nothing else, take this take, underline it, and bold it. Oklahoma matches up with LSU. But LSU has shown in game after game the Tigers are going to score. The Tigers dropped 45 on Texas, 42 on Florida, 46 on Alabama, 58 on Ole Miss, 56 on Arkansas, 50 on Texas A&M, and 37 on Georgia. And we can talk about the 37 points Ole Miss scored, the 612 yards of offense Ole Miss put up, and the 212 yards quarterback John Rice Plumlee rushed for. We can talk about 38 points that Vandy scored on both sides, offense and defense. But I prefer to talk about just how much talent is in the back 7, and particularly at the corner and safety positions. LSU safeties coach Bill Bush held court at a coaches clinic a while ago, while getting ready to put high school coaches through their paces and then show them how he's coached and put together one of the best groups of defensive backs in the country. He pulled up tape of the man wearing Pat Peterson's number 7 down in Baton Rouge. He said, "This is Grant Delpit. Obviously, he's fun to coach. He's first-team All-American. He's the best safety in the country. And if he does this whole thing right, he'll be a Hall of Fame football player. And on that tape that he showed, the 6'3" ball hawk who hits like an absolute hammer, a hawk hammer, cuts across the field to pick off a pass. Next, he careered off the edge, rips past an offensive tackle, and that's a snack, that's a rack, that's a sack. He's as gifted as Jamal Adams and Tyrann Mathieu before him. At LSU, they call him Baby Maul after Jamal Adams. The Boomers will love how little he celebrates making a play. He doesn't bat flip, line dance, or take selfies with fans before the clock strikes 0. That's when former NFL assistant Jerry Sullivan nailed Delpit to the wall. He elevates people, he said. He loves the game, plays his ass off every week. You know what you're gonna get. Delpit can bounce, pounce, and explode. He also can have your favorite offensive coordinator nervous and loose over the commode, sweating out where Delpit is gonna make like Harry Potter and a parrot. He's played corner and linebacker, but he's special at safety. His football intel processes like an Intel Core processor. And in this, his household name year, he's played first and hurt and refused to quit. He missed 2 weeks of preseason camp because the injury bug bit him, then as it bites everybody else. He was held out of the game against Arkansas with the hope of keeping him fresh enough to finish the season unbeaten and get as close to putting the throttle on the floor against Georgia in the SEC title game as possible. And boy, did he ever. He's had to become a better teacher as he's helping raise one of the burgeoning stars and best hell-raising ball hawks I've ever seen in Derek Stingley Jr. Stingley Jr. is the best freshman football player in America. He is 18, and Orgeron has already said he's going to play both ways as a true sophomore. Get your Charles Woodson on then, son. In the SEC championship game, he picked off 2 Jake Fromm passes, allowed just 5 catches on 16 targets for an NFL QB rating against of 24.2. Whoo! He leads the SEC in 6 interceptions. He's so good the SEC's most valuable player, Joe Burrow, stopped LSU's post-game press conference following the SEC title win to let people know you've only just begun to feel Stingley's venomous pointer on your booty. He said, in case anyone forgets, Derek's a true freshman. I forget that a lot. And Burrow is a baller in his own right. He is the best offensive player in football, and he's got the stats and swag to prove it. Burrow became the first SEC quarterback since Auburn's Cam Newton in 2010 and 4th all-time to throw 4 touchdowns in a game. He already holds the SEC record for passing yards in a season with 4,715 yards. He set the SEC record for touchdown passes in a season with his 45th touchdown pass this season, a 23-yard strike to Biletnikoff Award finalist Jamar Chase in the first quarter. Of Heisman Trophy winners who have played quarterback since 2000, only Sam Bradford has passed more yards in his Heisman winning season. And finally, Burrow continued to hold pace on setting the NCAA record for completion percentage in a season, going 28-38 against Georgia. He is 342 for 439 this season for a completion percentage of 77.9%. And that's all before we begin to talk about running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has rushed for 1,290 yards this season, or the Charlie's Angels trio of wideouts, Justin Jefferson, Terrence Marshall, and of course Chase. He's had those guys to throw to all season. Burrow's dad, Jimmy, played defensive back at Nebraska. He was selected in the 8th round of the 1976 NFL Draft, and 5 years in the CFL. He played 3 Grey Cups. He played 4 and won. He's got all that to show for it before he decided to coach defense. Those are Joe Burrow's bloodlines. Joe's dad coordinated that side of the ball defense in 1981 at Washington State. He had stops at Nebraska, North Dakota State, Iowa State, and Ohio over his career. He only retired last year. This is football family. Know how I know? Joe's brother Jamie played middle linebacker for the 2001 Huskers. He was a member of the squad that hustled to 11-2 and lost the national title 37-14 in Miami. His brother Dan walked on at Nebraska to play safety, but Joe is more talented than Jimmy, Jamie, and Dan to let them all tell it. Just check out these anecdotes they told ESPN's Mark Schlabach in his story that was phenomenal about it. Link below. When Joe was a toddler, Jimmy taught him how to ride a bike on the artificial turf at Nebraska. He fell down just once, he got back up, he never fell again. When Joe started playing flag football when he was 6, Jimmy asked one of the Cornhusker video assistants to film his games. He showed the tapes to Joe's older brothers. Jamie remembers his brother dropping 40-yard bombs and having to ask his dad if that was normal. No, Jamie, I can answer for Dad. It ain't normal. When Joe was tall enough to dunk a basketball, he sent cell phone videos of him doing it to his older brothers. They observed his friend was throwing the ball right over the rim, and more like a tip-in than a dunk. So Jamie and Dan did what other brothers like to do. They teased Joe and told him his dunks were not authentic. A few weeks later, when they attended one of his games just before Christmas, Joe stole the ball at midcourt and threw down a tomahawk dunk. Call him Billy Hoyle. Burrow played on a travel AAU basketball team when he was 9. During one state tournament in Columbus, Burrow's team was trailing by 8 points with about 30 seconds left to go. You would have been right to think the game was over, but Joe took over, scoring 9 consecutive points, including 7 straight foul shots to lead his team to an improbable comeback. The other team kept fouling him, and he kept right on, making shots. The coach of Joe's AAU team is a fellow named Tom Vanderven. He is a professor at Ohio University, and he studied crimes and the actors in them for a living. He observed in Joe the qualities we find in our first responders. He said, Joe's pulse doesn't change, no matter the situation he finds himself in. He could be mowing the lawn or pulling people from a fire, and his pulse would probably stay about the same. Unlike the kind of men who end up leading Power 5 programs at quarterback, Joe didn't play at a high school power. Athens High had made the playoffs just twice until Joe showed up and started as a sophomore. By the time his career ended, they'd won 37 games. He threw for over 4,500 yards with 63 touchdowns as a senior. It was actually Texas Longhorns coach Tom Herman who brought Joe to Urban Meyer as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. He told Meyer, "I've found your next Alex Smith." But he wouldn't be that, not for Meyer. When Joe arrived at Ohio State, he backed up JT Barrett, then broke his throwing hand and decided to grad transfer as the QB derby with future first-round pick Dwayne Haskins was heating up. He transferred to LSU. Started right away, and the Tigers went 10-3 last season. Now, in 2019, he's trying to get to a place Jalen Hurts has already been and played in most of his college career. Hurts was brought to Oklahoma to win games like this one. He's the only person in the entire program to win a semifinal, and he owns a national championship ring. At Oklahoma, he is the closest thing to an Avenger playing football as there is today. He passed for 3,000 yards and rushed for 1,000 yards in his first 11 games. Only Johnny Manziel and Lamar Jackson, MVP much, can say that. It's worth noting, wideout CeeDee Lamb has helped Hurts achieve these heights. The Biletnikoff Award finalist has accounted for 1,208 yards on 58 catches with 14 touchdowns. To date, Hurts accounted for 3,634 yards passing and 1,255 yards on the ground. He's thrown just 7 interceptions, which is one more than Burrow at 6, while accounting for 50 touchdowns. Burrow has accounted for 51. But you can't forget, Hurts is a one-man wrecking crew for his team and against his team. He's had a turnover problem since his days at Alabama. He's accounted for 12 turnovers and 5 of OU's 10 fumbles lost. The Sooners have put the ball on the ground 19 times in 13 games. That's nearly twice as often as LSU has. The Tigers have fumbled the ball just 10 times and lost it just 5 times. Hurts turned the ball over so often at Alabama that Nick Saban and his rotating door of offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches overcoached him into timidity and made him too slow to pull the trigger in a shootout. And that's what this game has to be for OU to win it. It has to hit the over, and Hurts has to be the best and cleanest player in the game. But you can't be afraid to grip it and rip it. And the same goes for Alex Grinch's defense. To paraphrase Eden Hall Academy Mighty Ducks coach Ted O'Ryan, this defense needs to ride into Atlanta with one word tattooed across its chest: confidence. Listen, if you learn nothing else when you're here, learn this. All right? Because it's not just about football. It's easy to be confident when the offense has control of the ball. It's very, very difficult to keep that confidence when you got to take whatever strange bounces life throws your way. Don't be careless, but don't be too careful either. You cannot be afraid to lose. It's how you gain the confidence to attack the game when the ball isn't yours. That's how you attack life, even when you think you don't have any control. And that's how you play real defense. Whoever does will win a chance to play for a national championship.